Hey everybody, wake up. This is Wake Up with Mark Joyner, episode number 48. Today we're going to talk about how to deal with those days when you got to push hard after a sleepless night. All right, so tell you a little story first. So yesterday, Thomas Engberts came over, and because I was feeling a little bit stronger than I was the day before, travel always messes me up a little bit. So, we didn't work as hard for a couple days there. And then yesterday, boom, I was feeling strong again. So he comes in and, kicks me in the ass. And my plan was to get a super good night's sleep after that, of course. I ate a bit of extra food. I even passed the point where normally I just, the diet I'm on right now, I eat until my body tells me to stop eating, and I don't count calories. I haven't counted calories in years. I'm at a point where I want to listen to my body, right? So this time I pushed myself a little bit past that point because I know, my legs are going to be decimated, right? So after that, something kind of tragic happened. And I ain't gonna tell you what it is, and I ain't here asking for your sympathy about it, so please don't write under there, "Oh, Mark, I hope everything is okay." It's not about that. Doesn't matter whether it's a personal thing or a business thing, or maybe it's a friend who needed some help, but something happened. Kept me up. I had to, be around some people, that, needed some leadership and guidance. I needed to provide that. I needed to provide a steady hand for some folks, and kept me up way past my normal sleep time. I like to sleep super early. I like to be in bed at 8 p.m. on the weeknights at least, right? Fridays and Saturdays I might give myself a little more freedom, all right? I like to be up at 4 a.m., boom. So I'm knocking some work out. Went up way past that, having to deal with this. It happens, right? You got to deal with it. I ain't special. This happens to y'all too, right? It happens to all of us. Nothing is static, right? We're either moving forward or backwards. Everything's constantly changing. This is how it shows up all the time, and it often surprises you. It often gut punches you. You got to be ready for that. So I knew that today I still had to get up, and I got a lot of stuff I got to show up for. I got to knock it out of the park today, in fact, on a whole bunch of things. So what do? So there's a whole toolkit here that we can apply, and there's a whole bunch of ways that we could approach this. Now, one thought I had was, well, maybe I should just sleep in a little bit more. Well, here's the reason I didn't do that. Because I've been speaking about this, a few times. I get up and I do this morning routine where I do my Wim Hof breathing and a number of other things and some movement practices and some other breathing practices as I watch the sunrise. I do that every morning. I learned about that from Dr. Jack Cruz, who's a really interesting iconoclastic force in the biohacking and alternative medicine community right now. Now, he cites a lot of research that shows that morning sunlight affects your melatonin production, it affects your dopamine production. This is why I started creating that ritual in my day, and it definitely improved my mood, improved my sleep, it has improved everything in my life in a lot of ways. And that's, remember, that's a whole part of whole other bunch of things I do. I do my little calendar that brainwashes you. I do some things called animal flows. Of course, in Simpleology, I do start my day to make sure that my day is organized and clear about what I need to focus on, because I don't have time to be mucking around. I got to get super clear on what needs to get done. Big part of what Simpleology does for you. It's why I do it every day myself, of course. Okay, so that's why I didn't sleep in. But here's the thing, there's going to be a cost, right? There is a biological cost. Everything has a trade-off. Everything in life is context dependent, and everything in life has a trade-off, does it not? So I did not get enough sleep. I did not allow myself to sleep in, but I still got to knock it out of the park. So what am I going to do? Well, the first thing is, a buddy of mine who studies kendo talked to me about this principle where kendo masters sort of they revere this notion of remaining still and calm right up until the moment where you got to strike, right? So they conserve their energy, they remain calm until the moment where they have to be explosive, right? So I have to use a similar sensibility. I have to think of that metaphorically throughout the day, right? So I need to conserve my energy. I need to make sure that I'm not, overly exerting my aggression unnecessarily in certain places. And I do need to be a little bit gentler with my body, right? Now this is funny, after, yesterday giving a long talk about, the virtues of endeavoring to become an alpha male, right? And how I think men, might want to consider that for a various number of reasons. Well, in the grand Taoist scheme of things, there is the yin and the yang. Every man must also embrace the yin inside of him. One way that you do that is that you have to be aware of the times when you need to be gentler on yourself, right? You need to have practices in your life that, bring some restoration into you. If you are not getting sufficient sleep, if you are not working on your mind, if you're not, calm, if you are overly stressed, these things are going to show up in the form of illness, for sure, right? So I got to be super careful because, kicked my butt yesterday, so already I'm under a big load, right? Biologically, my body is demanding certain things of me that I did not give it, right? So less sleep, still got to knock it out of the park today. So throughout the day, I'm going to be thinking like that. I'll probably be taking, little tiny breaks throughout work to make sure that my body is nice and smooth, make sure that all my other habits are lined up nice and correctly. By the way, quick interjection here. Another reason I didn't sleep in, when you sleep in, it's harder to sleep that night, isn't it? Because we're up, we pushed our biological clock a little bit forward, getting to sleep on time, that next night's harder. So I had to watch that too. But I will give myself some moments of rest, throughout the day. If I feel myself getting, kind of out of balance, I might do some meditation for 5 to 15 minutes. I might do some parasympathetic breathing. You guys might have heard me speak of that. One thing that we know about the body is that we can use breath as the gateway between the conscious and the autonomic nervous system. It's this beautiful thing. And we know that when we breathe in, it stimulates the sympathetic nervous system, and when we breathe out, it stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system. So there's this wonderful breathing practice where you breathe in for a certain count and then breathe out for twice that count. 4-8 is the most common combination. Automatically calms your body. So throughout the day, I will give myself some, parasympathetic nervous system breaks like that to sort of, give my body some rest. Not a bad idea to do that throughout the day anyway, right? Depending on what your day looks like, what your age is. And by the way, if you're a younger person, you can get away with this. You might be waking up and slamming some Red Bulls or whatever chemical stuff you want to do to keep yourself alert. At my age, I got to be a little bit more careful about that. When you're at 50, the stimulants inside my body are not necessarily the right answer, right? So I'm not going to be trying to go find, any kind of approach like that. Also, when you take stimulants, you don't allow your body, to adapt to the natural ebb and flow of the yin and the yang, right? You're not going to be able to have those moments where you're up and then you allow yourself to be down for a minute to recover and then, fluctuate. Instead, what you're going to be is on, and then you're going to crash, right? This is what happens when we drink coffee and we drink Monster, Red Bull, any of that stuff, right? Any of those, stimulant-based approaches to these things. So not going to do that. Instead, I will, muster up, I will generate the energy that I need, through, whatever way I need to do it. If I'm not awake enough, but I got to be alert for something, I got to be on, I'm going to use my physiology and my attitude, right? We know that if we change our facial expressions, we change the way we move, we change our moods, right? There's another beautiful way that we can hack ourselves that most people are not aware of. They don't know the power of breath. They don't know the power of physiology. They don't know the power of how much control you have over your own moods, right? But y'all are learning that, right? It gives you a tremendous amount of power. It gives you flexibility. It gives you a toolkit. Kind of gives you superpowers in a way, if you think about it. It gives you a huge advantage over people who don't know these things. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm probably going to do a whole bunch of extra rounds of Wim Hof throughout the day. Why? Because we know one of the things that Wim Hof has gifted the world with his fantastic demonstrations and his practices is that he took himself and some of his acolytes into the lab so that he could prove scientifically that he is not just an N=1 study. He is not a freak of nature. that he can actually transfer these skills to people. He got his acolytes in there, and what did they do? They had them, doing their Wim Hof breathing, and they injected them with the toxin that is created by the Ebola virus. Their physiological response was radically different from normal humans. They neutralized those toxins very, very quickly. I know that my immune system is going to be a little bit weaker today because I got less sleep. So extra Wim Hof is going to give me a little bit of, immune system oomph, right? It's going to give me a little extra kick. All right, so guys, we're never going to not have the days like this, and they're going to come and they're going to sucker punch you at the worst possible time. My butt kicked hard yesterday. Man, we had it was I got to tell you, my legs were wobbly, and we were both laughing, and he was like, "Yeah, you're going to have DOMS tomorrow. DOMS is delayed onset muscle soreness." Yeah, and I was like, "Yeah, I know." I know. I love it. I don't mind it, right? But that's, it's a sign that you've worked out hard. Plus, on top of that, I have all this other stuff that I got to take care of, right? So boom, sucker punched. What do I do? What do I do? Am I going to, crawl up into a little ball and cry? Am I going to go, nothing wrong with that, by the way. If you got to cry, sometimes it's cathartic, getting some tears out of you. Nothing wrong with that at all, right? As long as you don't make that the habit, as long as that's not your constant reaction to everything, that's a problem, right? But from time to time, a little bit of cathartic cry is not going to hurt you, probably pretty good for you, right? But what I ain't going to do is I ain't going to avoid, right? I'm not out, and I'm not going to try to find avoidance behaviors to avoid the things that I got to take care of, right? I could go, man, maybe I should just sit in bed all day and binge watch some stuff and cram some junk food in my face because I need it. I deserve it, right? It's the kind of lies we tell ourselves, isn't it? That stuff ain't doing you any good. That ain't helping you recover. You think sitting in bed watching, binge watching something is helping you become a better person? No, man, it's messing up your body. You're sitting there still for the longest time, first off, right? You're not stimulating your lymphatic system. As the great Paul Chek says, the lymphatic system does not have a pump. You must pump it through movement, right? And then you think adding on top of that, cramming in a whole bunch of junk food, and cramming in a bunch of probably wrong ideas on the screen into your mind. You think that whole gestalt of wrong ideas is going to help you? Somehow we say, oh, that's my day where I can recover. That's how I nurture myself. That's me, that's a me day, right? That ain't a me day, man. That's a you messing up your body day is what that is. I mean, look, I ain't gonna judge. It's not like I haven't had those days. I've had plenty of them, but I've had enough of them to know that they aren't what we think they are. They're not recovery days, right? Good recovery day is an active recovery day, where you are being a little bit gentler with your body. You make sure that you get enough sleep. You are vigilant of making sure that you aren't getting overstimulated, right? You don't want to be walking around with rage and aggression all day, right? You don't want to be walking around holding in stress. It's up to me, especially as a leader, to demonstrate to people that you can remain calm under pressure, right? And that is a healthier, more effective way. Yes, there are moments like the kendo master where you must strike with intensity and fierceness, but conserve that energy and do those things in the moments that are needed, not too much. That's how I'm going to deal with it. Let's hear from y'all. I want to hear some comments from you guys. How do you deal with a night that is sleepless, but you still got to knock it out of the park? If you have better ideas, I want to hear them. You help me. Let's help each other. Right? It's not like I got this all figured out, and it's not like I'm ever going to get to a point where I do. The only reason I have been able to accomplish what I have so far is because I do listen to other people. I do attempt every day to fight that battle of shutting down the ego and knowing that I don't have all the answers and I can listen, while still maintaining, enough personal sovereignty to know that when bad ideas come in, I will reject that. Maybe some of y'all are going to have some advice that you share on this post, wherever it is, on Facebook or YouTube or wherever we're streaming it now. We're streaming it at a bunch of places. Maybe some of the things that you say will be useful. Maybe some of them won't. I can't give up that responsibility either. Shutting down the ego doesn't mean you shut down the gatekeeper, right? Doesn't mean you shut down your responsibility of having to be a big boy, a big girl, and make big boy and big girl decisions for yourself and take responsibility for whatever happens in your life.